Good evening, everyone. Thanks and welcome to a News 360 special. Stalemate in the face-off over hijab in classrooms in Karnataka continues, with the Karnataka High Court referring the matter to a higher bench. Justice Krishna Dikshit maintained that in view of the enormity of the questions of importance which have been debated and brought forth with this issue, the court is of the considered opinion that the Chief Justice should decide if a larger bench can be constituted on this subject matter. There were high-voltage arguments and counter-arguments in the court, with senior advocate Sanjay Hegde, who was appearing for the petitioners, arguing that the question involved in this case is whether there is a power with the state to prescribe a uniform, and has that been done properly. He further maintained that a teenage girl should not have to settle with her conscience for the sake of her education, and demanded that an interim arrangement be made to ensure that these girls are not kept out of college if they want to wear the hijab. Advocate General P.K. Navadgi, appearing for the state, opposed the grant of any interim relief, stating that these petitions are not maintainable. He contended that the petition is misconceived as it challenges the government order that gives autonomy to each institution in prescribing uniforms. The Advocate General further stated that hijab does not form an integral part of the religious practice. Meanwhile, Senior Advocate Sajjan Povaya, appearing for the College Development Committee, also opposed any interim relief, arguing that the prescription of uniform has been there in this particular instance for 1 year, but it is only now that a complaint has been raised. First up, listening to what both sides said after the hearing.
I have trust in my judiciary system. I hope our judges keep constitution values in top and give judgment on that basis, and hope they will get our rights and will get justice.
There are some places where discipline has to be maintained. Law of the land has to be followed. Whatever the act says and rule says, that is what we are saying. We are that the act and rule has not been framed when BJP came to the power. When the apex court has decided, I request the student to follow, because as a citizen of the country, we have to follow the judgment or direction given by the apex court or high courts.
Now, even as a larger bench will hear this matter further, there is no interim relief for the girls. The court has maintained status quo that as it stands right now, hijab in classrooms will not be allowed. No interim relief, therefore. The big question we ask, though, is will better sense prevail, even as this matter, of course, becomes a larger constitutional issue? K.S. Naveen, MLC of Karnataka BJP, Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow ORF, Poonam Muthreja, Executive Director, Population Foundation of India, and Amber Zaidi, social activist, joining us on the show. Today I'm not going to go into the legal arguments because they've been argued in court. We've argued them and discussed them over the last 3 days. So I think everybody has made those points as far as the legal standing is concerned. The petitioners argue it's their fundamental right because hijab is an essential practice. The state argues that uniform is there for a reason and it must be adhered by all. But I want to go to the fundamental issues that arise out of this debate. And Amber Zaidi, I want to come to you first up. The underlying movement or issue here is that Muslim women, at least in this case, and some who are lending their support, are saying that hijab is a choice. First of all, do you believe hijab for young minor girls is a matter of choice?
Absolutely not, Shivani. Hijab is not a choice. Hijab is a mindset, regressive mindset, which is being enforced on such young girls at such young age, and how they have been demonstrating their religious identity at an educational institute. That is the matter of fact, and we need to discuss that. Education is important or hijab. Quran's first ayat and first ayat of first word is ikra, which means educate yourself. And we are not talking about the education here. We go to an educational institute to be a better person, to become a better person in life. And we talk about uniformity, and the uniform we were discussing, that the legal aspect we all know that we have been discussed since yesterday, and we all know what the Constitution says and what is the Karnataka Education Act and what is the clause of 133 and everything. But the thing is that when you are forcing a mindset on young girl at young as 1 year or 2 year. I've been seeing such young girls being that in hijab or in abaya or burqa in India. This is India where girl, female, this secular brigade is fighting uh, to prevail this regressive mindset
No, but
here in
Amber,
India.
when the
And you just
girls
see,
themselves say that we are doing this willingly, then what do you say?
see, it's not willingly, Shivani. That's what I'm saying. When when you start making a girl who is 1 year old, making her just start wearing her hijab and make her wear a hijab at young age as 1 year, and then you don't give her a choice. It's just a mindset you have been spoon feeding that this is compulsory, this is mandatory, which is not. It's not compulsory in Islam. It's not an essential practice in Islam. It's not part of religious practice. It's just a mindset. It's just a custom of a different culture. It's not part of our culture, and we have recently just seen that it has increased in our country. You see a lot of girls wearing hijab and socks and gloves and just covered their entire face. You can't see their eyes
You
only
know, what
also.
is
So
also
that
very
is
obvious in this case, for example, is that even as these girls are protesting, some other girls have joined these protests, most of them are wearing the burqa.
actually
How is anyone to support that? I mean, fine, it may be an individual choice outside of an institution, but the fundamental question becomes, ultimately it's a covering which has very patriarchal, misogynistic views. Poonam Mutreja, I want to come to you on that. In the face of what has happened in Karnataka, people are also asking what has happened to the liberal, secular, progressive, feminist brigade. They're supporting this.
So what I first of all, this whole business that even I'm sorry, the media is joining the whether it's the right wing or the left wing, I don't care, but they are being called brigades and all. Do we not have a mind of our own? And I'm really surprised that Miss Amber, who is deciding for other girls, even though they are saying they want to wear the hijab, as the girls who've gone to court and the girls we've been seeing on TV and so on. And she's saying, no, they should not be allowed to, even though that they are being forced to, when they're saying they're not being forced to. For God's sake, there are better issues in this country we need to work on. We need to keep...
Yeah, but this issue has arisen because the girls have gone in court. Now, sir, ma'am, we didn't make this issue. We are discussing it only because they are fighting for it. So there are two questions. One second, there are two questions. One is whether wearing a hijab is a right in a classroom. We've seen the legal arguments on that. But I'm asking you, one by one, please. Poonamji, I'm asking you a larger question, which Amber is saying, that does a 14-year-old have that agency to know if she's been told from from a young age that, listen, this is how a pious Muslim woman behaves, and this is how she looks, and this is what she wears? In court, ma'am, it has been argued. Yes. In court, it has been argued after the menstruation age. The Quran dictates that the woman cannot show her face and neck. I'm asking you that question.
Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, let me tell you, if I were a Muslim girl, I would not wear a hijab. So I'm being very straight, and nor do I wear sindoor, as you would notice. I'm a happily married girl. I don't wear any symbol that I don't wish to, all right? And I think every girl and every woman should have the right to decide which symbol she uses. Okay, at age 14, she may wear, but at age 18, 19, 20, whenever she can decide. So why are these activists interfering in the family matters of whether you're Hindu, Muslim, Sikh?
We are discussing about an educational issue. It's not a family matter. We are not saying that what you wear at your...
Okay, one by one. Amber, I'm going to give you time. Amber, I'm going to give you time.
She's been dragging me.
No, Amber, I'm going to give you time. Don't worry. Let her finish her point.
I'm commenting on your comment. I've been asked to comment on her comment. And please, I don't want to comment on anything she's commented because I totally disagree with her. And she's interfering in the lives of families.
So you are saying that as a country... One second. Amber, please, 1 second. Amber, please, 1 second. Please,
thing.
let's
I
hear
am-
each other
I am
out.
Absolutely wrong.
Can I have
That is the
Poonam ji with me,
hypocrisy.
please?
That is the secular
You are
agenda that is
saying,
doing.
Poonam ji, you
Yeah.
are saying
Yes.
that as a
Yes.
country, we do not
Yes.
have the right to even discuss whether a woman should be covering her head or face? You're saying that?
No, I'm not saying that. We have the right to, people can comment, but let the girl, let the person decide what she wants to do. If she, there are plenty, how many, what percentage of Muslim girls wear hijab? Not all of them. Obviously, the others are deciding to reject his hijab, and I respect that as much as I respect the girl who wants to wear hijab. And you know, when the people are small, young, there are so many things imposed, including women or girls are told if there is sexual abuse in the family, keep quiet. So
But
that
ma'am,
doesn't,
we don't
do we go
stand
into
for
every
that, na?
household?
We don't tell
No.
young girls it is okay. We tell them, especially when they're growing up, to question these misogynistic, narratives.
Absolutely.
And that is the
Every
purpose
girl-
of going to school. That is the purpose of education, to open up your mind.
Shivani.
The
Yes,
fact
no,
that these girls
absolutely,
are
but
fighting to wear a
absolutely.
hijab in
So
a
have
classroom,
confidence.
why is there support for that? I'm asking
So
you
have
that. In a
confidence.
classroom.
1 minute. No, the support is the feminists. They are totally wrong if they're only supporting the hijab. I am not supporting hijab. I am supporting the girl's right to decide what she wears. Next, you'll say boys can't wear, Sikh boys can't wear turban, and that the
Nobody is
religious
discussing
folk
that.
No, it's
Right,
not
right, right.
comparable
We are
because the
discussing
Sikh
right to
turban
choice.
is not a symbol of misogyny and patriarchy. Though both
It
are
is,
religious
absolutely
symbols, but the connotations
Yeah.
are very, very different.
So we
Amber,
must
I'll give
let
you
our
30
girls-
seconds.
I
Okay,
agree
one
with
by
you.
one, please.
I
The
want
other
to
two guests
respond
have
to
not
this.
spoken.
No,
Amber,
no,
I'll
I
give
want
you
to
30
respond.
seconds.
Please, it's unfair.
What do you-
asked me a
yes, you want to
question, I
continue? I'll give you
respond in
30 seconds, ma'am.
Yeah. So I do believe
No,
the
she's been
girls have to
talking
decide, and we
repeatedly,
must
and
educate them,
I think that should
empower
be
them
given.
to fight misogyny, and not only that, we have to empower them to fight every form of patriarchy.
So this
in
is the way to
society.
do it.
Whether-
This was an opportunity to do it, to tell these young girls that, the hijab is not more important than your education. I'm just
No,
saying that.
they have to
Nobody
know.
is,
I'm sorry.
no women's
I'm
activist is
sorry.
coming out and
Not
saying
allowing
this.
them to choose.
Because
If
they have
a
said
girl-
similar
no.
things for example, the gungat, for example,
what to
child
wear,
marriage.
what not to
Amber,
wear.
please, one
And
by
you
one.
think-
Amber, please don't talk over me or the other guest. Yes, go ahead. 30 seconds.
So what I want to say
Amber,
is
please.
we
Amber, please.
must
No, ma'am, please.
empower-
You've had your opportunity. Amber,
Okay.
please respond.
Okay.
See, Shivani, we are not discussing the freedom of choice here. We are discussing about this regressive mindset, which is very dangerous for our society. And India is a secular democratic nation, and everybody is saying secularism means embracing all the religions equally. No, it's not. Secularism means above every religion, caste, and creed. And when we go to school and educational institution, we go there to learn better things, to be a better person, to in our life. And we when we go to such institution with wearing our religious identity already. And we are underage. We don't know anything. What we have to. What is good or bad for us. And
Okay.
just the lady, she was talking before me. She said, if I would be a Muslim girl, I would not choose to wear hijab. And when I am saying as a Muslim girl, I know it's about the mindset. When you have been labeled as a good or bad girl, you'll go to hell, or you are not
Okay.
Jannati, or you are dozuki. So that is the mindset.
That is the pressure, of course.
thing we face every day.
Obviously, patriarchy
That is the
and
thing we are
misogyny
fighting
doesn't work
about.
in such absolute manner where people tell you to do one thing or the other. It is also the ingrained message that is given by society, and our job is to fight against that. Have we forgotten that? That's what I'm trying to say. So, Shant, of course, the issue here is whether you can wear it inside a classroom or not. Nobody is objecting to the hijab outside in a public place where everybody has the right to decide what you want to wear. But I want to come to the larger question of the hijab. There's a pro-hijab movement around the world. But we are also witnessing, especially in Europe, that multiculturalism is being pushed against. It is being done in country after country, where not only in the issue of the hijab or the burqa itself, but people are coming to the realization that multiculturalism, which is the backbone of saying that people should be able to flaunt their religious identity or any other identity anywhere they want, is actually creating deeper fissures. And that's the larger question here. Because if you allow the hijab in a classroom, what will it lead to?
So, Shivani, you're right. One is the specific question of this particular case. These were the same kids who did not have a problem going without a hijab until a couple of days back. And suddenly they've decided and they've raked up this entire controversy. Now, you're absolutely right that you go into there is a certain, uniform standard which has been imposed. You might agree with it or you might disagree with it. For
Right.
example, if I don't agree with what school my kids go to or what teaching they have done or the uniform which they are prescribed, I should change the school and I should go where it serves my ideological or whatever other predilections I have. Now, so one is that specific question that there's a uniform prescribed. You can't violate that particular principle, because if you start doing it, then there's a pushback which is very clearly coming from the other side, and I don't endorse either of that.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that every action will have some kind of a reaction, and it's best to avoid that. Yes, you are right. You are going into the class, you take off your hijab, you conform to the uniform, you come out, you want to wear a hijab, you want to wear a burqa, you want to wear whatever, it's your free choice. You go ahead, do it. One, I might not like it, and I would agree with Ms. Zaidi on that. All that misogyny aside. The bigger question, however, and I'll just come to the European part and multiculturalism in a bit. But the bigger question is that the arguments being made in the court is that this is mandatory under a religion. This is an article of faith of the religion. I agree with what Ms. Zaidi has said, but the fact of the matter remains that if you now accept that this is a mandatory requirement under the religion, and I can't see the television screen right now, but I would imagine that Ms. Zaidi, who is probably a devout Muslim, would henceforth be declared an apostate, because she's probably not clad in a hijab or a burqa coming on your show, because this is supposed to be mandatory. That means that any Muslim girl loses the agency, loses the choice, loses everything which has been gained over the years and which has already been there
In India.
as part of the society in India. So look, India is a unique country. Nobody bats an eyelid, nobody gives a second look if a woman is wearing a shuttlecock burqa, wearing a hijab, wearing whatever, right? So that is not a problem. For people to make this out to be a question of education versus hijab, I think that's a complete misrepresentation of this particular case. Nobody has stopped these girls from getting educated in the college. There is a certain prescription which is there. They are supposed to follow it. If they don't like it, they should change the college. Number one. Number two, if you take this same logic forward tomorrow, and this was done in the Indian Air Force a couple of years back, I tweeted about an old story which came, I think it was 2016, when people in the Air Force said that we should be allowed to wear a beard because that's an article of faith for us. And the Supreme Court very clearly ruled that this is not an article of faith. If you want to do this, then you have to leave the Air Force, right? The only exception which was made was for Sikhism, because that is actually an article of faith out there.
Yeah,
it is
an
not in
part.
the other cases. And finally, on the multiculturalism thing, I think multiculturalism has backfired in ways the Europeans never imagined it would. I think multiculturalism has failed completely. Europe was a far, far, far more relaxed and liberal society in which people could do whatever they wanted to do until about 10, 15 years back. But I think the pushback is now coming from the indigenous people of Europe against the migrants because of precisely this attitude that we will do things which violate whatever, the society where we have come to settle, or where we might be now second generation, third generation. We will bring back what we have left behind in Morocco, Algeria, or whichever place they've come from. We are now going to bring it back and we are going to shove it down your throat.
And
we are not
all
going
of
to
this
live
is
by the
also done,
norms of your
Sushant.
society. We will live by the norms
All
of
of
our
these
society.
countries are
And if you
secular
are
in
so fond of
principle.
your society,
India
then
is
go back.
also designated a secular republic, and all of this fascinatingly is done in the name of secularism. You know what it has done is made people, unfortunately, I'm saying, wary of this
Shivani,
kind of secularism.
Shivani, frankly speaking, it is the secularists who have given this wonderful concept of secularism and made it into a four-letter word. Frankly speaking, the kind of distortions and contortions and convolutions which have been brought into the concept of secularism, making it and it's becomes, and I think that is a great misfortune of this country, that as noble a concept of secularism has been distorted to a point
Exactly.
where a
Unfortunately,
large
I am
number
a
of
little
people
short
feel
on time,
repelled by
so
it.
I have to give KS Naveen a minute also. Mr. Naveen, can I ask you, as a BJP representative, what is your fundamental argument here against the hijab in a classroom? Is it law and order? Is it other people's sentiments? Or is it that you want to maintain uniformity? There is some confusion with what the BJP is also saying.
Firstly, we want to, go by the law, what has been set already. The law says, Government of Karnataka law says that uniform is mandatory in the schools. So the uniform, the law that was brought, it was brought in 2015 and 16 by Government of Karnataka, which regulated the uniform for 11th and 12th students as well. That was basically to bring equality among all students, irrespective of caste, creed, and culture and religion, status, financial status, economic status. Everything has to be put in the same perspective, and the uniform was brought in. Now, I will let me go back to the chronological order of how this whole episode has propped up. BJP has no agenda here. BJP is not confused. BJP has got nothing to do with whatever this is a very much a created controversy, which has come out of blue. Maybe, with the way things are going, probably this is also part of the toolkit agenda, larger toolkit agenda of the party, which did other protests as well earlier. See, till December of 2021, all the colleges and schools were shut because of COVID, and colleges started in December 2021. Everything was going as usual. Students were very happy to come back to school, very happy to go back to colleges, because they were not going to colleges for more than 1.5, almost close to 2 years.
Okay.
Now suddenly this one girl appears from nowhere and she says, I have to come with hijab and also sit in the classroom with a hijab. The principal tries to explain it to her, because we can't give differentiation, because already a set rule is there. It is not a new rule that came in during the COVID or whatever it was. It's there from 2015.
Okay.
Then next day she comes back with another 5 kids, and all of them come with hijab, and that they sit as though it is their right to sit in the classroom with the hijab. And believe me, the principal did nothing wrong. He explained them that this is the law, this is the rule, this is what the education department has set in order for all the schools and colleges across the state.
Okay,
And
fair
they're
enough.
not made for only particular school.
No,
Or he did
Mr.
not have
Naveen,
any
fair
qualified
enough. We
intentions.
have run the CDC's point of view. They have even released pictures to show that till last year, 2021, everyone was without headscarves. So yes,
Exactly.
this has come up suddenly. The girls have also accepted to some media that they only started doing this in December. Why is the big question. But even if you have that faith, and even if you want to do it, is the classroom the place to do it, or should you choose an institution where you can do this? But I want to ask you one more time, Mr. Naveen. Why is the government making this about law and order? If you can't handle law and order, that doesn't mean the hijab is the problem.
Madam, 1 second. The government is not making it as law and order issue. You please go back to the issues that has happened. See, the whole thing started to become a big issue when these students resisted and protested in the school. And they made sure that they want to take this as a fundamental right of them to come and express it as their
Well, for
wish
now, there is
to
a
school.
status quo. We hope that everybody maintains peace and the government will have the onus to do so too. But there are larger questions that have erupted because of this debate, and without struggle, we must look at those issues.